Hey, this is Marcus Miller. What's happening? I think this year we're going to call the year of Luther Vandross because so many cool things are happening. There's a documentary about Luther and his life, beautifully done by director Don Porter. And also, Greatest Hits package is called Luther Vandross, Never Too Much Greatest Hits. And all of a sudden, there's all this energy around Luther Vandross. Young people are rediscovering Luther. It's a perfect time for them to do so because of the film, because of this new LP, which y'all know about LPs, okay? This is how we used to do it. We used to buy the record, the LP. We used to open it up, we put the record on the record player, play it, and then we would just read all the information. Oh, wow, this guy's playing the bass. Oh, this lady's singing background. It was an experience, right? You didn't play it while you were walking down the street. You sat down somewhere, right? And you played the music, okay? And you checked out the story. And this you can do, all right? Look, that's the back. That's all the songs. Hey, check it out. They got info, okay? You could figure out like, oh, wow, I wrote liner notes on here, okay? So I'm describing every song. Anyway, old school LP, come on now. And I'm just really excited. Luther Vandross, that's the back, that's the front. Anyway, Luther and I, we met in New York City. We're both from New York, and we were studio musicians. Studio musician is a musician who comes in like a musician for hire, and whoever's doing a record, the producer will call you and say, come on in, I need you to record the music, the background music for this artist that I'm producing. We never knew who we were going to be performing for. It could be Elton John, it could be Paul Simon, it could be Midnight Star, it could be anybody. It was a really lucrative thing for musicians to do. I was a bass player, so I played on all these different records. Luther was a background singer, like one of the top background singers back in the day. So if you needed background vocals, you just called Luther Vandross. He would call the other singers who we thought were appropriate for the song, and he'd come up with little hooky background parts. And I'm not talking about just, he sang on commercials for like Juicy Fruit and Burger King, because that was a big thing in New York back in the day, talking late 70s, early 80s. But he also sang a lot of hit records. He sang on David Bowie's records, Young Americans, and he came up with the part that you remember, Young Americans. That's Luther Vandross. He sang on a lot of the Chic records, all the big, those big hit Chic records that we're still hearing today. A lot of that is Luther Vandross. Anyway, we met there and got to know each other. We played in Roberta Flack's band on tour together, and Luther said, you know what? I want to do my own thing. And I said to him, why would you want to do your own thing? You're like the #1 background singer in New York City. It's so cool. You don't have to fly anywhere, And he said, no, I got a sound in my head, and I need to get it out. He bought some studio time, and he brought some of his friends into the studio. And one of the first songs we recorded, a song called Never Too Much, right? So I walked in the studio, and it was Luther, and it was Nat Adderley Jr. Nat Adderley Jr. Has been Luther's accompanist. How do you say that word? Accompanist since they were teenage. And Nat knows Luther's voice, and he was so instrumental in Luther's music. And he had written out all the music for everybody for this song that Luther had written called Never Too Much. And I sat there and saw the bass line. Boom, 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 boom. And man, we recorded it, and this was old school, okay? This wasn't like today where, you do the music on a computer and then you bring the singer in and the singer sings a song for a week, and then the producer takes the best lines that the singer sang and makes a compilation. No, Luther was in the studio with us, and we were just playing. So I got to hear it. It sounded like the record, right? It sounded like the record while we were recording it, and Luther was just killing it. I'm going, man, this sounds good, My man is doing his thing. Anyway, we did about 4 songs. Luther took it around New York, up and down the streets, going into different record companies, trying to get a record deal with his 4-song demo. Took him about a year. He finally got a record deal. A gentleman named Larkin Arnold at Sony Records signed him to actually Epic Records at the time. It took him a long time. It took Luther a long time to get a record deal, but it didn't take a long time for that record to become a hit. Never Too Much was on the radio all day long. And I was like, this is my boy, this is my boy. That's him on the radio. And man, the rest is history. So anyway, we're going to start with Never Too Much. Make sure you check out the bass, okay? But also listen to Luther and the way he can tell a story. He's a fantastic storyteller within the song. Just an incredible song. And this was Luther's first hit, one of his signature songs, Never Too Much. When I say goodbye. By this time, okay, we have been doing our thing for a good amount, like 10 years, okay? And we're at the point now where Luther's making, I don't know, maybe it was his 10th, 11th, 12th, I don't know how many albums he'd done by that time. But we were finishing an album, and Luther says, listen, man, we need one more song, kind of up-tempo, okay? I thought we're done. He said, no, we need one more song. I got to go out to do a meeting or something. Marcus, put together a track and have it ready for me when I get back. Okay. So when he got back, I had the track to this song, and he listened to it. He goes, you got to believe in love. He just started singing like he had written it already. I was like, man, this sounds like a hit, Luther. So anyway, we finished it, and there's another song that Luther used to sing with a producer he used to work with when he was a teenager. The producer's name was Teddy Van, and Teddy Van had written this song called Love Power. And Luther remembered this song, from back in the day, and he said, it'd be great if we can incorporate this song, Love Power, into this Power of Love song that we just created. So that's what we did. We did Power of Love, and then at a certain point, he said, when we walk, and that starts Love Power. And it was powerful combination. Ended up winning a Grammy for the best R&B song that year, and it really opened up Luther's audience. To that point, Luther was like an R&B megastar, but this started to get some pop recognition as well, and this kind of opened up another avenue for Luther Vandross. Love Power, Power of Love, Power of Love, Love Power. There you go. There was a movie called Ruthless People. I think Bette Midler starred in it, Ruthless People. And they asked Luther to create a song for the movie. And Luther came up along with Nat Adderley Jr., his piano player and arranger and musical director. Nat Adderley, incredible musician. And they came up with a song called Give Me the Reason, which was different for Luther. It had that beat. You know what I mean? And Luther, usually his stuff was mid-tempo or a ballad, and this was like one of the first times that we heard a more kind of modern pop sound on Luther Vandross. But it's a huge hit. It's on the radio, and it let people know, hey, this guy is not just, you can't put him in a slot. This guy does everything. Listen to this song. His voice, of course, as always, sounds amazing. Give Me the Reason, Luther Vandross from the Ruthless People movie. So after the Ruthless People song, which was a hit that had more of a pop sound to it, okay, Luther and Nat Adderley Jr., Luther's piano player, arranger, musical director, they came up with one with a similar beat but took it even further down the road. The song's called Stop to Love. And man, that was a super hit. What was interesting about that song is that Luther was singing about, yes, you're famous and you're doing great things as a performer on the road all the time, but you might want to think about taking time out, stop to love. Don't let that thing take over your whole life where you end up with nothing else but your career. Got to stop to love. And of course, his voice is fantastic. There's a guitar player, Doc Powell, who played with Luther for many, many years, and he gets loose on this one. Luther says, go. Luther let him go, man. So you're going to hear some fantastic guitar work from Doc Powell. So Luther Vandross, Nat Adderley wrote it. It's a big hit. Doc Powell on guitar. Stop to Love. So I came up with this track maybe like 1987 that I sent to Luther. When I say a track, it was the music without any vocal line, and I sent it to Luther. And I didn't know what the song should be about. I just knew it gave me a certain feeling, but I sent it to Luther to see what he thought about it, what he would feel. And man, he wrote a song that turned out to be one of my favorite songs that we've ever done, because I think it's the most I think it's one of the most autobiographical songs that he's written. He wrote a beautiful lyric about being hopeful that you're going to find the love that you've been longing for. And please listen to the lyrics on this. It's just so beautiful, a little bit heartbreaking, but he's still hopeful. And that's what I love about the song. Listen to how he comes out of the bridge. You know, the bridge is the part that goes, suddenly out of the clear blue sky. Listen to that part, and then listen at the end. It modulates and it's really strong. And I'm just so proud of the way he performed this. Any Love. Now Luther and Mariah decided to do a duet, and they don't agree. I don't know if they agree on who suggested it, but they ended up doing Endless Love, which was a huge hit for Diana Ross and Lionel Richie, and they decided to do it. Now, you know, when you start deciding to mess with Diana Ross and Lionel Richie, you better come with it, and that's exactly what Luther and Mariah did. I don't know how, where in Mariah's career she was at this time. She certainly wasn't as huge as she is now and as huge as she became. But man, after performing this, man, everybody took notice. So check it out, man. Luther and Mariah singing Endless Love. You know, Luther was so courageous. And you go, what was he courageous about? He was courageous because he wasn't afraid to take other people's songs and perform them and make them his own, right? I mean, he took songs by Dionne Warwick, Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, the Carpenters, and on this song, man, you know, Always and Forever, this was an R&B staple in the 70s. This was the slow song at the party that everybody waited for at a certain hour in the night, you know. So whenever Luther does a song, he immediately puts a big old Luther Vandross LV stamp on it. He was so creative with the way he would interpret other people's songs. And sometimes the way he covered songs, his version became the definitive version of the song, even though his was a cover. But on this one, of course, we still love Always and Forever by Heatwave, but listen to Luther's version. His voice was made for this song. So Luther Vandross, Always and Forever. Now, if there is a signature song for Luther Vandross, in my opinion, House Is Not a Home. This was an incredible, adventure, this song. It was a song originally written by Burt Bacharach and Hal David back in the 60s, originally performed by Dionne Warwick. And Luther was a big Dionne Warwick fan. He loved the way she delivered a song. He loved the tone qualities that she used when she sang. So Luther said, hey, you know what? I want to do a version of House Is Not a Home. And I heard the original version. He played it. I thought, okay, I can't imagine what he's going to do with it. And no one could imagine that he was going to do this. He took this song and literally made it his own. It's listening to this song takes you on an emotional journey. In, I don't know, maybe it's 6 minutes long, 7 minutes long, but it's an emotional journey. And hearing him or watching him perform this song live was an experience that I can barely describe. There was so much drama that he inserted into the song. It was incredible. You know what he was famous for? Luther was famous for false endings. And by that I mean, he'd sing the song and he got to a certain point, and then, you know, the last note is going to happen. It's about to end. And then he'd go into something else. A simmering, beautiful groove. And it was unexpected. And then he just improvised while the band just kept playing this groove, right? The song's supposed to be over. No, for some people, that's the best part of the song, you know? So he says, still in love with me. And when he says me, the band goes, boom, boom. Check this out, man. And then watch what he does with that vamp. We call it a vamp when you play the same thing over and over. And Luther just improvises. He just makes stuff up. And it's so beautiful. And the stuff he made up was so incredible that when he performed it live, all the women in the audience sang every line that he improvised. He had to go back and learn what he improvised, because he was just making it up on the spot. He had to go back and learn it because all the women in the audience were singing it with him, and it was just a phenomenon. And there are points in the song where he pauses, and there's not just space, and then he restarts, pretty little, and he starts again. And man, those pauses were so dramatic. I remember I was in Madison Square Garden watching him and the band play this song, House Is Not a Home. And during that dramatic pause, it was so emotional. This is the drama that Luther Vandross could create during a song. So listen to the song and imagine that you're in some big place, man, and imagine what those pauses would do. And imagine all the women singing everything he sang at the end. It's just an incredible experience. Luther Vandross, A House Is Not a Home. Superstar. Okay, this was his other epic performance where he took a song that was from back in the day. This particular song, Superstar, was from the Carpenters, who were big, huge in the 70s, sung by Karen Carpenter. And it's a song that you would never expect an R&B singer to embrace to do, but he took this song and twisted it, turned it, and created something that's so special. And Luther was a student of music. He loved music. These records that we were doing, it was the early 80s, early to mid 80s. But what I want people to know is that when Luther started making music in the 80s, he was already old school, right? Everybody who heard it said, wow, man, this guy is old school, because no one was using violins, real strings on their records by 1981. Everybody was using synthesizers. But Luther insisted, and using strings on your record, it can get expensive because, you got 40, 50, 60 musicians to pay. But Luther insisted. And so Luther was always using real strings. He was using it when he first started, arrangers who would figure out what the orchestra should play. He was using arrangers from back in the Motown days. A brilliant arranger named Paul Reiser did strings for Luther. Leon Pendarvis, another brilliant arranger, did strings for Luther. But by this point in Luther's career, Nat Adderley Jr. mentioned to Luther, I do strings too. I arrange strings also. And Luther and Nat had been working together since they were teenagers. Nat Adderley was Luther's piano accompanist. And Luther said, really? And Luther's so loyal and so family oriented. He said, okay, Nat, I want to do Superstar. Write some strings. Oh, by the way, Nat, I want to do an intro to Superstar, okay? And I'm going to use the bridge of a song that Aretha sang, Till You Come Back to Me, right? And I said, okay, let me get this straight. Till You Come Back to Me, and then what, I do a string interlude? Luther said, write whatever you want, and then we're going to go into Superstar. So that's the setup. Please listen to this. Listen to Luther starting off with, I want to tell you, baby, right? And then once he finishes singing that part, Nat just arranges these strings. You won't believe, now that I told you, you won't believe what Nat did based on those directions. And then Luther starts Superstar, okay? And again, so much drama. It starts really quietly, just Nat and Luther on the piano. Eventually, the band comes in. I didn't come in on the bass until like 2 or 3 minutes into the song, okay? Because keep building. And then there's another false ending, okay, where you think the song's going to end, and then we go into something else. We go into a groove, and Luther does his improvisational testifying thing that, just drove women crazy. I mean, they're singing every line with him. I told Luther, you could save your voice, man, by just starting the song and then letting your fans finish the song for you, because they know every single line. But no, he did it. He did it the right way. He continued to sing, and they were like his background singers. But listen to Superstar. Listen to Nat Adderley Jr. arranging all the strings. Listen to Luther starting with Aretha's intro, and then going into Karen Carpenter. Who puts Aretha and Karen Carpenter together? Luther Vandross does. Okay? Till You Come Back to Me, Superstar. Everybody knows that Luther Vandross was a huge, huge fan of Dionne Warwick. And they became really close friends, which is really, really cool. Now, one day, Dionne's son, okay, David Elliott, he said, I got something for you to hear. David Elliott and his songwriting partner, Terry Steele, they came up with a song and they played it for Luther, and Luther said, listen to this, Marcus. And he played me this song and I go, whoa. He says, Dion's son sent it to me, and he was so excited that he could do a song so connected to one of his heroes, Dionne Warwick. And that song was Here and Now. Now, this is one of those songs, every once in a while, a song comes out and it becomes the wedding song, okay, for, I don't know, a number of years. And this was that song, Here and Now. Everybody had to play it at their wedding. It's a beautiful song of, pledging your love to someone for the rest of your life. And it was such a popular wedding song that Luther, one time he was performing, he started singing that song, and a couple who had just gotten married walked down the aisle towards Luther, and the bride still had her wedding gown on, okay, and the groom was still in his tuxedo, okay, and Luther, and he just directed the song at them. Beautiful moment, but that's what that song meant to people. So anybody who got married in that certain period, I know Here and Now is a very special song for them. And it was really special for Luther that he could pay tribute to his idol, Dionne, by doing a song that was brought to him by her son, Here and Now. So you guys know that Luther Vandross has a new documentary for Luther called Never Too Much. The song that the documentary ends with is one of the most iconic Luther Vandross songs ever. It's called So Amazing, okay? And I love the title because the title is something that Luther used to say all the time. Marcus is so amazing, it's so amazing. He always used to say that. So this song is just 100% Luther. Matter of fact, So Amazing, Luther had presented it to Dionne Warwick first because we worked on an album for Dionne. And Dionne sang it beautifully, but Luther decided a couple of years later to do it himself. And man, it's not a very complicated song. It's just beautiful, so beautifully constructed. Of course, Nat Adderley Jr. did a beautiful job putting all the music together. But this is one of my favorite songs. I think it's a lot of people's favorite songs of Luther. So amazing. So early on in Luther's career, I remember him saying to me, this is like early 80s, Marcus, I'd like to write a song called Dance With My Father. And I said, okay. I knew Luther lost his dad early in his life. Maybe he was 8 years old. It made sense that he, that left a hole in his life and left a space in his heart. So, but I, Dance With My Father, I thought maybe, it's kind of like a gentle dance beat or something like that. I was thinking about how he would realize that song. Okay, fast forward 30 years. Fast forward, Luther says, come to the studio. I recorded a song with Richard Marx. We wrote it together, and I need some bells at the end of the song. Bring your synthesizer, find some bell sounds. So I said, fine. He said, let me play you the song first. So I sat down in the studio, and he played me this song. And man, I fell apart. Okay, I said, Luther, this is the song you've been wanting to write your whole life. You finally did it. He said, yeah, and he knew that it was gonna mess me up. Tears, Fonzie Thornton, Luther's dear friend, said the same thing. Luther had Fonzie, I think he was in the car, and played Fonzie this song, and Fonzie, because we both knew what this song meant, and it just made it so poignant. That was just the beginning of the emotional journey of this song, because it finally came out, and Luther had a stroke, and Luther's in the hospital, in and out of a coma, right? And while that's happening, Dance With My Father is reaching #1 on the charts. Something that Luther had never had. He had R&B #1s, but this was a pop #1. Something that he always dreamed about having. And even in the documentary, I say how devastatingly ironic it is that you finally get what you've been yearning for, and you're not even 100% there to appreciate it. It was really heartbreaking, but beautiful at the same time. And, just listen to the song. It's so simple, and it's another one. I realize that I'm describing these songs, and I'm saying, this is everyone's favorite Luther song. I probably said that about 5 times already. This is one of people's favorite Luther songs. It's really emotional for me to hear Dance with My Father. The Closer I Get to You, another cover. Cover is when you do a song that someone else has already done. It was really special because Luther and I, one of our early collaborations together was we were in Roberta Flack's band together. Luther sang background, Roberta and I played bass. And we played The Closer I Get to You because that was her song. She had sang it with Donny Hathaway, the great legendary singer, Donny Hathaway. If you don't know about Donny Hathaway, please check out Donny Hathaway because he's the model for a lot of singers, even if they don't know he's the model. But anyway, Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway had sung this song originally, and it was a huge hit back in the late 70s. And Luther and I got to play that song every night when we were on tour with Roberta Flack. Another song that you got to be pretty brave as a singer to tackle because it was Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway. But, Luther and Beyonce, come on, they slayed this thing. And it was crazy because I was on the road with my own band. I said, how did the session go? He said, the session went great. I had to lock the studio door because all the musicians were trying to get in so that you could just take a look at Beyonce. He said, we're trying to get some work done. You guys out, But it's beautiful to hear those two voices together. And that's another specialty of Luther. Luther had many specialties, but one of his beautiful gifts was knowing how to sing with another singer, particularly a female singer. So many beautiful duets. What comes to mind? If This World Were Mine, that he sang with Cheryl Lynn. Endless Love, okay, that he did with Mariah. What other one? Oh, I Who Have Nothing, which is a Donny Hathaway song that he sang with Martha Wash, who was one half of the Weather Girls back in the day. Luther did some incredible duets. And this one, man, The Closer I Get to You is beautiful. And I'm sure it was a great experience for Beyonce. I mean, now, she was big then. She's huge now. But I think it's probably a great experience for her too. Closer I Get to You.
I love you, I love you, I love you.
So this song is a mystery. Fonzie Thornton, who had all of these archives of Luther's stuff. Fonzie was Luther's best friend for years. They grew up singing together since they were teenagers. And Fonzie was going through all the video cassettes of Luther's performance that Luther had saved, and he found a cassette, and it said Michelle. And he said, what is this? And he played it, and it was Luther singing the Beatles classic, Michelle. And so Fonzie started calling everybody. The management office started calling, okay, who put this thing together? Why are we just discovering it? What was it? They played it for me. I didn't remember, I didn't remember it. When did we do this? For at least a year, we were trying to figure out where it came from. Finally, I listened closer and I heard the guitar, Paul Jackson Jr., who played on many of Luther's records. And I called Paul and said, hey man, is this you on the guitar? He said, yeah. I said, do you remember doing this? He said, no, but I think you put it together just as a demo, right? So what I think happened is that Luther said, hey, I'm interested in doing a version of Michelle, right? And I put something together fast, figuring we would replace the music later. But Luther went in there and sang the vocals. And Luther doesn't really do demo vocals. Even his demo vocals are like incredible. They're record worthy. And so there was a cassette, and it just got discovered, and it's a beautiful song. And Luther, of course, sings beautifully. And Luther sang all of the background vocals himself. Luther was famous for putting together background vocals. He loved background vocals because he started as a background vocalist himself. So he's really particular. I mean, he had to have this lady singing the top note. His favorite lady to sing the top note was Whitney Houston's mom, Cissy Houston. He would always want to have Cissy on the top note in the background. Tawatha and Brenda White and Fonzie Thornton, a tremendous singer. He loved having background singers, but on this song, since he was just trying to get an idea of what he wanted to do, he sang all the backgrounds himself. And he's a tremendous background singer. So listen to the backgrounds of stuff that he sings at the beginning and at the end as the background group. It's just incredible. Michelle, Luther Vandross.